Welcome to the restoration of the League-Kempner House. I'm on a mission to save this house, and it's not going to be easy. If you're new here, you're going to want to catch up on the work you've already missed on our earlier videos. So many exciting things have already happened. In our First Things First video, I told you how a 10-foot section of bad roof design caused probably 90% of the damage in this house. We're going to get into the details of that a little later in the video, but I wanted to start with a reminder from one of the earlier videos of the damage that water did. It takes a lot of water over a long period of time to cause damage like this. Before we continue on and look at more damage that was done by the water leak, let's get oriented as to where exactly it is. It sits here at the top of the wall where we had the big stained glass window and the stair landing. Remember, we had two of those windows, one here and one here. They're magnificent, but the damage from all the water leaking has seriously harmed them and they had to be removed. Check out the video if you haven't already where we took them out. That wall that just fell down was right here in the sunroom, just on the other side of the stained glass window. We'll also see significant damage in this entire landing area, carrying all the way down through the basement. Here's a sneak peek. There's more damage over here in the servants' stair, which shares a common wall with the grand staircase. So this one leak has taken out this huge area. Under the grand staircase is a half bath that I forgot to show in the home tour video, so let's take a quick peek at it now. The original sink is here, but someone has raised it about 6 inches higher than it would have been originally with these metal brackets that were added to the legs. Not an attractive look. Victorian sinks were apparently very low to the ground. The beadboard was obviously painted with latex over oil base and it's peeling badly from the moisture, but that's not a problem because most of this will get demolished. There's a transom that opens into the servant stairwell for circulation, and I really love the cute little decorative button on the transom mechanism. The others in the house are just plain. This is the only fancy one. The bath also has a combination gas and electric lamp. The house would have had both types of lighting when it was built because the electric service was new and unpredictable. It had a marble slab for the toilet to sit on, and here you can see all the rotten termite damage in the floor. As you look further down the wall, you can really see evidence of the extent of the termite damage. This wall backs directly up to the servants' stair, where I've seen a lot of termite activity. This is the exterior directly under the big stained glass window on the grand staircase landing. This is not what the wood holding up your house is supposed to look like. The beams are soaking wet, everything here will have to be demolished, and it doesn't look like anything can be saved. The wood damage was very obvious on the stair even without doing any demo. You can see that with all the supports under the landing gone, the landing itself was collapsing. I had to do some initial repairing and propping up and barricading to make it safe for the home tour. We had almost 5,000 people go up these stairs over a 4-day period. I don't think they would have held up. You can see that the wood is in very bad condition. A lot of it's already been replaced with some very cheap lumber, and that hasn't held up. Not that anything would, with all the water coming down this wall. And everything here will have to be demolished so that the brick behind it can be repaired. So let's get to the demolition and expose everything so we can take a look. The repair really needed to start down in the basement. The wood was so rotted and the support so weak for the stairs and the landing that it really wasn't safe to be working in the half bath until this got repaired. There was ample room to work, and just like we found everywhere else, the wood was deteriorated and gone, and the mortar between the bricks was in bad shape and needed repointing. Once this was demolished and rebuilt, Ricardo and his crew moved up to the first floor and worked under the stair landing. This is a tight space, so it was awkward and they had to sit and do most of the work. They didn't get too far along before I got nervous about tools going in and out past the porcelain sink, so I had them stop and remove the sink, which is a little nerve-wracking by itself. All the bolts were rusted and wouldn't come off, and it had to be cut with a saw. Once the sink was safe, they went back to the major demo. Okay, I'm under the stairs with Ricardo. Say hi.
Hi.
And Luciano. And they've started the demo, and Ricardo's going to demonstrate the whole thing. loose. Not good. What are you gonna do with the chainsaw? Ooh, cut that. All right, let me get out. Oh, we have a rat nest. Rat. I think this guy's homeless. Oh, Taylor. Run up there and get a picture of it. No. What is it? A lot of animals? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, there they are. There they are.
Some spray for...
Yeah, I'm going to treat the whole house. There's the live termites. So, first live ones we found. Normally we wouldn't have cut those boards. We would have tried to save them, but I knew the termites were in here. You can see where they've eaten the wall. So all this wood has to be thrown away. Everything's going to have to come out and be treated. This is, again, under that stained glass window where all the water's been coming in. I'll talk about termites in detail in a different video, but here's just a quick little example of how they eat. They follow a board, and they like the soft area between the rings. And they'll travel on that board and then move to another board. And when they hit something perpendicular, like this, they'll often stop and reverse and look for something else. Once all the demolition is done, then it's time to sit back and take a close look at all the damage and come up with a plan on what to fix, what order to fix it. This area is pretty small, so it took maybe an hour to work through all the details. Bigger areas with more complex problems could take weeks and sometimes months to really come up with a game plan. And then we have to leave all these because the hardwoods are nailed. The hardwoods are nailed to it. So we'll just sandwich a new one across. And then you can repoint. That's pretty good, isn't it? It's just the arch. Just the arch needs some repair. So repair the arch and a little pointing there. Yeah, and then this has got termite. This has got some termite in it because this stair isn't really very well supported. Yeah. I mean, look at the little stringer on it. It's tiny. It's not even a half-inch thick. And then nothing in the center. Somebody's come back and put this brace on it. This is the flimsiest staircase I've ever seen. And then this wall I want to brick in.
You want to close?
Yeah, I need to close that off.
Okay.
But I tell you what, let's leave that open for right now because we still have to run electrical.
Okay.
And we might need that opening to run electrical and go down the baseboards and come out. So we can come back if we point everything and do that. Everything got cleaned up and new lumber went in to repair everything that was rotted. That's the wall that fell down from above. We braced the stairs a little more, and you can see we sistered the floor joists together. I didn't want to take the old ones out because the hardwood floors of the stair landing are nailed to it, so that would have meant removing the landing. This is just interesting. With the wall demolished, you could see that one of the panels in the wainscoting had been broken out and repaired from behind. And these are the old nails. So with everything nice and firm, we moved up a level. The bottom panels were so rotten and termite eaten, it didn't take very much to get them out. The third area that was really impacted by this leak was the servant staircase. At first glance, it looks great, but if you start tapping on the wood and look closely, you can see that it's just riddled with termites, and those termites go from ground all the way up to the third floor. They've really traveled up this wall, and I can't demo it yet and show you what they've eaten because we just finished termite treatment here, and it needs to sit for 4 to 6 months to be effective. The termites have to travel through the poison and take it back to their nest. I'm not optimistic about the condition of the servant stair based on some of the things I've seen doing the termite treatment. Let's move on to why all this happened. Let me show you a quick diagram of that 10-foot section of roof that I told you about that caused so much damage. Let's start first with a normal roof. Everybody's seen one. They have a slope to them or pitch. They stick out past the outside wall, and when it rains, the water comes down and runs off away from the house. In this case, the wall that we're talking about is a big, thick masonry wall. It's maybe 12 to 18 inches wide. And instead of having the roof come over the wall, for some reason, that sloped roof comes down and stops just to the inside of the wall. And to stop the water, there was a custom gutter made that flashed up into the roof. So when it rained, the water came in and went to the gutter and was carried away. That worked fine until the gutter deteriorated. When the gutter deteriorated, the water came down and went inside the wall instead of to the outside. So it was running between the masonry wall and all of that beautiful wood wainscoting that was surrounding the stained glass window. That's where you saw so much damage. So for years, I don't know how long that gutter had failed, but since it had already been repaired once and there was extensive damage, my guess is it could have been 20, 30, 40 years or more. All that water coming in rotted out that stair landing that we worked on and the basement area that we worked on. So this leak did all of the damage that we saw in the servant stairs, in the added-on sunroom, and in that whole grand staircase area. Now, to fix this, my first thought was to work with the custom sheet metal company and have a new gutter made exactly as the roof had been designed in the first place. The more I thought about that, I decided that was not a good solution. It had failed terribly once. It's going to be very expensive to fix all the damage. So why would I go back and put something that could just fail again? Instead of putting the gutter back, I came up with the idea to ask my roofer to pull back some of this roof and add on just some simple 2x4 extensions to the roof rafters. And basically do this. Then he came back with a composition roof to match what was there and roofed the section that he added. What that did was create something more along the lines of what you would see traditionally in a roof line. So now when it rains, the water comes down and goes off on the outside like it should, away from the house. And we've had enough rain now to know that this has made this whole section of the house completely watertight. We still have a little bit of work to do on the flashing at the ends, but right now we're watertight. This was a simple $600 or $800 fix, I can't remember, but that damage that was done by all that water will be, I don't know, close to $300,000 to fix. So let's go back to that section of wall and see exactly how these repairs were made. Here's the wall before anything was done, and here it is with the 2x4s being used to extend the roof line out over the wall. A fascia was attached to the ends of the 2x4s, and then plywood decking was put on top of that. A waterproof membrane was placed on top of the plywood, and then the roofer started putting on composition shingles that closely matched as we could to the existing shingle roof. At the end of each row of shingles, because it butts up to the masonry wall, he had to add a piece of what's called step flashing. Each row of shingles has a piece of step flashing, and then there's another row of shingles and another piece of step flashing, and on until the plywood's covered. This was done to waterproof up against the edge of the masonry. There's still a missing piece of something called counter flashing. Counter flashing slips into a groove that will be cut into the wall, and it will overlap the step flashing, making this whole area completely watertight. The counter flashing will be done at a future point in time by a mason when we start repairing the exterior plaster damage. There are other masonry repairs that need to be done, like where the original gutter end was built into the wall. As you can see, when it rusted out and was removed, there was a big hole left in the wall. Not surprisingly, this hole was directly above where that wall came down with just the tug of my finger. There will also need to be some repair of the masonry work where they cut through the wall to attach the downspout to the gutter. I'll go back with a new gutter at some point because there are a lot more water issues in this corner that we'll talk about later. And there are still a few major and other minor water issues to address in other spots of the house. But this fix stops the single biggest water issue that there is. Remember, water is very damaging, and stopping future damage is high on my S list, right there behind safety and security. This clip is just an interesting example to me of how people fix the result of a problem and not the root cause of the problem. I looked up the other day after the roof repairs were made, and for the first time noticed that this window right outside where that wall collapsed has a big piece of galvanized sheet metal attached over it. Obviously water had been coming down from above and doing damage to the window, but instead of stopping the root cause of the problem, which is the water from above, they stuck this here to try to keep it from hitting the window. It doesn't really help. Once everything was done, it was just time to sit back and wait for the rain. It's been a really rainy summer, so we didn't have to wait too long. You can see here it's a pretty good rain coming down, and the water is running off as planned away from that opening where the stained glass window was. That wall is pretty dry. Unfortunately, you can see against the far wall, it is saturated and wet, and that's where that hole is, where the gutter end was in the wall, and where we haven't put on the counter flashing yet. So there's still some work to be done, and I will be putting up a new gutter in this area and doing some work directly above it to try to keep that far wall dry. But for now, I'm satisfied with this result, and it's on to the next project. This roof leak may be fixed, but it's not the only one in this house. Next, I'll be tackling the flat roof over the addition that was built in 1920. So don't miss out. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the work that's going on here at the League-Kempner House on Galveston Island. And don't forget to check out our website, League-Kempnerhouse.org, for ways to contribute to saving this amazing house. Thanks for watching. See you next time.